Hello, everyone. Eric Watson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of Voyager Quarter videos, and tabletop role-playing aficionado. Welcome to my weekly behind-the-scenes, DM-only live stream Crafting Icewind Dale, in which I build, write, and prepare for our next session of Rime of the Frostmaiden. We're playing characters of Valravn, Frey, Celeste, Edmund, or Thimbleweed. This stream is not for you, but for the rest of you, welcome. There will be mega spoilers. Stream our D&D sessions live on YouTube every Friday evening. You can watch all of our D&D live series as well as reviews and Let's Plays on my YouTube channel. And read weekly session recaps at roguewatson.com. You can follow me on Twitter at roguewatson. Join our official Discord server with invite link in the description below. If you'd like to support the channel, please check out patreon.com/roguewatson. Shouts to new patrons this week, Richard and Furkan. Thank you all very much for your support. For our campaign, we use Roll20.net. For streaming, I use Open Broadcaster software with Streamlabs. We have much more to talk about with Sunblight, although my players made it pretty decently far last time. I think we covered the almost the entirety of the command level without any combat whatsoever, which is fine. Especially for an infiltration exercise, I think that's worth, and I talked about this a lot in Frostlight chat too, where running like this isn't a heist necessarily, but it's a dungeon full of bad guys that you definitely do not want to aggro all at once, and you don't want to necessarily go like room to room fighting people like you would in a lot of dungeon scenarios. And generally the DM is on the side of the players, at least I am, whereas I want to encourage the outside of the box, okay, how are we going to get into this area, how are we going to sneak around. And I really enjoyed Edmund doing the disguise self as the prince. And also this is fun because it's a culmination of a lengthier quest chain, whereas most of our, what are we on, 29 now, most of our almost 30 sessions have been these self-contained areas within each town that's just kind of a beginning, middle, and end, which the Dwarger stuff is that too, but at least those have been building towards something, which is at Sunblight. Hello to Nathan, Richard, Lazy DM, Jay. Good to see a lot of Stan, same names, the Stan names. I always like the Stan names. So I was okay with making it through, a good chunk of this initial level basically without much combat. The only disappointing thing is I did not get a chance to run the thing we talked about last time, which was a possible aliens situation, which is the classic dinner scene and triggering Thimbleweed's secret. Because what's interesting is, this dungeon has a failsafe for getting the party inside, which I tried to allude to, which is that there's almost like a not really a civil war, but just a disagreement brewing amongst the Dwargar between Zardarok's leadership. And what you're supposed to pick up on is that the guard outside is like, oh, you guys want to take out Zardarok? Then yeah, come on inside and, you have my blessing. Go talk to Grandolpha and she'll fill you in on the details. And, D&D is very much, you can lead a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink. So you can give your players all these different threads and ideas and things, but you still can't force them to do, or at least you shouldn't generally, force them to take a certain path or make a certain choice. So in this case, they played it cool, right? They like kind of stayed back and like, well, let's suss out all the information and see what's going on. And what it meant was only really Edmund got to do a lot of the role playing, but he had fun doing it. It was a neat way to focus on his character doing that. And only he actually had a scene with Grandolpha, and they still had a decent scene and got some information, namely that, yeah, she's got some people who are, more loyal to her, but to me, it didn't even feel like the players necessarily thought this was a proper avenue to explore. And like, it's like, okay, yeah, sure, and just we'll kind of move on. So maybe that was my fault as a DM for not enlisting as a possibility, but at some point the players have to pick up on information and things you're giving them, be like, well, wait a minute, should we reveal ourselves to this character and say, hey, we're here, with an actual force and stuff. But instead they want to keep it, subtle and on the down low and still pretend. Essentially the other four haven't just been seen yet, but the Edmund as Dearth was just like, okay, I'll keep that in under advisement and just continue on. Which means they may not have those allies, which is a kind of a big part of this dungeon. That could be a huge help. to enlist the aid of Grandolpha's Dwerger, and I even had written down like, okay, how many does she actually have? The biggest thing is in the I guess it's the forge level. There's a huge barracks where I think there's supposed to be 15. I don't think all the tokens are actually here. Like 15 Dwerger, and like 10 of them belong to Grandolpha or something, to where they basically all fight each other, and then like her allies actually come out. So the players could actually get reinforcements if they're part of that civil war. But the interesting thing is, right now my players are not part of that. So it could be an interesting thing where Grandolpha just tries to take advantage of that situation, or how I play it, I'm not sure. But as of right now, that was the big change they made, that I wasn't planning on, which is they're just not going to engage with the potential coup. Now they're still on. It hasn't turned into Fort Belwarian yet. No, it has not quite. But we will see. And that's what I'm getting to, is we're going to see how long they can keep up this reconnaissance. And because you want to, throw complications to the players and make it a tense moment, but you also don't necessarily want to bring just the wrath of this entire dungeon down on them, because not only is that a slog, but very quickly turn into like a TPK or something. Like, well, are they going to get thrown into prison? Like, what's going to happen there? Which could be interesting also. But in any case, I want my players to play it smart, but they're going to have to play it smart. Like, I can't force them to play it smart, so it's really going to be on them depending on what they do. All I can do is try to plan for where they're going to go next, and what the responses are going to be there, and how long they can keep up these pretenses. And right now, they haven't really done a careful job of. I mean, they've been listening at doors. I'll give them that. That's something. But I'll be very interested to see how they navigate, specifically the elevators. Are they going to send some kind of a scout, which is really only Edmund as Dearth, which I'm thinking about having his disguised self run out maybe after this fight that we just entered. I think disguised self, you might have to remind me, but I think it lasts an hour. And, what's interesting is, you can look at their hit points and see, Eric, I can't believe you didn't let them like fully long rest before this dungeon. And like, yeah, that's it's getting a little harsh, but they could have long rested at least before the Cave of the Berserkers session. I was gonna let them go back to town and get a full long rest. They didn't want to do that. They went straight there, and so I had that Goliath encounter, which drained them quite a bit. They short rested, but because of our modified resting rules in the wilderness, they could get all their long rest stuff back, but they did not recover hit points instantly, nor hit dice. So you've got an interesting situation where the spellcasters all still have a lot of spell slots available, but it's actually hit points that everybody's going to start freaking out about, which is an interesting factor. Because, and it would have been interesting had the player had an actual cleric that was like a full healer. Then they would be spending a lot of their spell slots just keeping everybody tip top. But instead, all they have for healing, I believe, is Valravan's healing word spell. He doesn't even have cure wounds, which I think bards can take. So hit point wise, they're hurting, and I would let them short rest. At any time they could pretty much short rest and it wouldn't be a thing. Like, what's weird is there's no actual patrols set up in the dungeon either. I thought that was kind of almost an oversight. There's no like people going by or encounters that you can get to in this dungeon. It's very much like a quiet, like everybody's doing their thing. In other words, I don't know how to react if players spend a lot of time here in terms of how people are moving around or doing. I'll have to come up with that. But that's kind of what short resting is, right? Short rest lets you do that anyway. But because they don't have, my point is, because they don't have a lot of hit dice, I don't even know if short resting is going to be something that would benefit them versus what they really need to do is long rest in here. And that's when I really have to determine, okay, could they safely just long rest in, for example, Dearth's bedroom, because nobody's going in there. I would, honestly, between you and, I'm not going to suggest it for sure. But if they, end up taking a lot of damage from this mimic fight, or take another damage from somewhere, and they say like, God, can we just, we haven't aggroed this dungeon yet. Can we just escape up to the dead prince's room, sleep in there, put some kind of wake up system in case somebody randomly opens this door. And then I would probably include just a simple, I don't know, complication. Maybe a dwarf is opening the door just to get something out. I mean, there's really nothing in here. There actually be a pretty safe spot to rest. So I would probably allow it, just because there is a lot of fighting in here, and the players have been without a long rest for a while. So I could absolutely do it. Is the real prince still alive? Well, Jay, there's two princes. One of them, will the real prince please stand up? So there's Dearth Sunblight and Nildar Sunblight. Nildar was the one in the Dwerger outpost, the first prince they encountered, who was the big alchemist one and had the spores. and I created those unique kind of basically the jar grenade actions based on the Myconid servants, I believe, or sorry, Myconid sovereign, and they took him out pretty easily. They were able to stealth their way in and capture him and keep him alive. But then, because of cool events that happened, he was able to escape after, because they kind of aggroed the dungeon after that. And he was actually able to escape. So that's which, man, there's so few times as a DM where you get a villain and you get a combat sequence and that villain can leave without you using some bullshit like DM, like, oh, and he teleports away, or he has a special item that lets him do that. You know, that was just a straight up like fight. He was able to disengage, run away, and Frey cut off some of his fingers because she's fucking crazy like that and a cannibal, and she eats him. And so I think that's awesome, right? He's a maimed villain. He's got this extra like hatred for the players. The other one was the one in East Haven, Dearth, which they were doing the heist of trying to steal the Chardalyn from or break up the statue. They fought all those Dwerger, and I believe they just ended up killing him like normal, and then the hand like emerged and they had to fight the hand off, so they just killed that prince. So that's the one they've been impersonating. The other prince is down below, and I'll show you my plans for that one. But, you know, a big part of this dungeon also is going to come down to which elevator they take. And it's looking increasingly like they're going to take this lower right one because from their point of view, it's not guarded, whereas the left one is. Oh, yeah, I was going to look up how long this guy's self lasts. 1 hour. So, you know, has it been an hour since they came in and looted some, you know, they really covered a lot of rooms. They covered X4, X5, X6, X8. I mean, they saw the chimney at X9, and then basically 10, 11, 12, you know, maybe around the time. If they rest, obviously, it's going to pop it off, but after the mimic fight, I'll kind of see if he like checks his watch. I'll be like, you've got, you know, 5 or 10 minutes of disguised self left. I mean, he can just pop it again. That's not a big deal, but it's an interesting way to keep up that resource system. Be like, all right, if you, what does the bathroom situation look like? That's a good point. Nobody ever has in these dungeons the latrines where they off. I guess you could just piss off the cliff right here. You could drop trow, and although where do you do the twosies? You don't want to do it down the chimney. That's going to lead down to where they're working. I guess you got to go outside to an outhouse or something. I don't know what the bathroom situation's like. I mean, there's do they have chamber pots here? I'm not even sure. Anyway, but yeah, there could be, if they long rest, then there probably would be some kind of patrol or change the guard or something. But, you know, the interesting thing is if they long rest, then obviously there would be signs of like somebody, you know, one of the one guard outside would be like, oh, you know, Prince Dearth never, you know, came to see you guys. Like he's, you know, I guess maybe, and Grandolpho would know that too. He's up in his room and all this. So they would definitely be like Prince Dearth, you know, and they would have to basically keep up the ruse again. So it would probably just create another social situation for them to try and get their way out of, which could be always fun. So, all right, what's coming up next? So I ended the session with Frey, you know, throwing open a trunk, which actually is part of the, I did not randomly add this. This is part of the written into the adventure, is a mimic, an intelligent mimic that speaks Undercommon for some reason. And it just belongs to Dearth, which the, well, you know what's interesting is how, if anyone attacks anyone else who disturbs it, I guess it will. If it saw Edmund as Dearth, maybe, but I mean, it's going to be violent against Frey anyway. We might just forget about that. I mean, the mimic doesn't have any. It doesn't say he has any information or anything either. There's no like, because Edmund does speak Undercommon, but maybe Edmund will think about it if he comes in and starts barking orders at the mimic. I might let him talk the mimic down. If he would definitely take a persuasion check there, which what would that even be contested by? Because it says it's his longtime companion, and if he looks like Dearth still, the mimic would have a +1 on its insight. Isn't that wisdom? That would be contested by the mimic's insight check, most likely, to see if it really is him. So yeah, I would allow that. If they think about that, if they think, oh, there's a mimic in this guy's room, we got to fight it, or if Edmund thinks, oh, maybe it's, you know, belongs to Dearth, then if he comes in and actually uses, you know, his action to do a persuasion check or something, I would definitely allow that, but it would be a check at that point. It all comes down to the initiative order. What is about to happen? So mimic adheres to anything that touches it. You're grappled by it, and ability checks made to escape this grapple have disadvantage. And specifically, he's got advantage. Okay, so I'll probably treat that as a surprise round, because obviously Frey would be surprised by that, which would be an advantage free bite attack on Frey. And then we would roll like normal, but Frey is currently grappled by it, and everybody rolls initiative. So it could be a big fight, or it could be over pretty quick, depending on, again, how initiative plays out, essentially. Where, if I go, I mean, it could be very painful for Frey if I go early, because again, I get that surprise round. So we'll see. I don't feel bad about launching a little fight at them at this point, because they made it this far without a single battle. And then, like I said, they could choose to rest or not, and we'll have to create some kind of complication. Probably somebody banging on the door saying, Prince Dearth or something. And depending on how they social check it, and I'll probably throw some Dwerger out there, and then everybody will have some explaining to do. Or I could create a battle right here. We'll see. The other thing we've got is, again, if they decide to take this lower right elevator, there is another enemy here in the form of 4 animated armors, which are not the most fun creatures to use. And I'm debating on if I want to use them. And it only says they actually animate if specifically anybody touches one of the suits of armor or deals damage to any of them. Which, is not a bad idea. Anytime you see like a gargoyle statue or a cloak or, anything that can possibly be a traditional D&D monster, why not just shoot an arrow? Like, why not just shoot an arrow into every single treasure chest you see? Especially if they're like unlimited arrows. Like, that's something that, if you're in a dungeon and you just see, like, I'm just going to fucking and then, it's like, does it take damage or does it just sit there and take it? But in this case, it does say at least they do animate if they are attacked. I was going to maybe rule that it's some kind of security system, because there's no guard like there is over here, that maybe if any non-Dwerger gets near the elevator, in which case, had somebody had detect magic or something, maybe that's part of the alarm system here, and then the armors all activate and attack, again, just to help create another fight. But again, we've got so many fights coming up. Holy shit. Especially if they take the lower left elevator, which I don't think they're going to take at this point. But what I've done with the lower left one is it's really an entire mini boss fight. We've got 2 Dwerger guarding the room. So you go down to the elevator, there's an empty room. The next room has 2 Dwerger standing outside. They're both loyal to Grandolpha. But again, my party has not made that deal. And as far as I'm aware, Grandolpha, oh shit, where did we leave it? I don't know. I guess she would, depending on how much time if the players rest, then she would be able to, tell everybody, okay, we've got, Prince Dearth is, we might have him on board with this coup, and then maybe I can work with that. If they don't rest though, then they wouldn't know anything, and they would just, be like, oh, Prince, they would basically be hostile to anybody that would come in except for Dearth, I guess. Nildar, the other prince, is here in the throne room, who again is a Dwerger with basically close to max hit points and those extra jars of Myconid things he can throw. There's actually a cool handout for this scene as well. Basically, this is where they're getting all the Myconid stuff from, from the mushroom spores and the spore servants, is from the Myconid sovereign, which is not a hostile combatant, which is, I think, really cool, because the players have a chance to rescue this creature, and possibly it could even be an ally. I would absolutely make that a thing. I think it's currently got one of its arms ripped off, but I treat it like Groot, where it would get the arm back. But that would be pretty neat. It could save this creature, but I mean, it's currently surrounded by 4 Quaggoth spore servants and 1 Quaggoth Thonot, which is a Quaggoth. I hate that word. A named one named Krob, who I gave close to max hit points for, because he's a named enemy, who has like some magic spells he can cast. That's a lot of nasty things. And then as soon as the fight starts, these reinforcement spore servants come pouring out of this room. That is a huge fucking battle that the players would have to face. It'll be weird. The only bad thing is if they end up fighting the Zardarok battle first, then, how much does that trigger other areas, basically? Would they still have to fight this area? Do these guys start pouring into that room? That starts getting a little tricky to figure out, in my opinion. Actually, I think the text actually say that. And we might not make it there. I mean, if they take the lower right, that's if they take the lower left elevator, they got to deal with all of that, and that's going to take the full session. Like, no question, that's a huge fucking fight. And then outside are there basically caves to the Underdark, which has, God, fuck rust monsters. I'm not going to use those. Those are just so mean-spirited and awful. The main thing is there's a bunch of Dwerger who are like bringing an Umber Hulk up from the Underdark that they captured, and then if they just run into the players, they just release the Umber Hulk and go invisible, which is hilarious. So that's just another fucking hard fight that the players have to play. Thimbleweed swears allegiance to the Mycadid Kingdom, absolutely. Oh, and I guess these Dwerger from X18 come in also because they're like watching this hallway into the throne room. But Zardarok is not in the throne room. He is. I'm gonna put him in the forge, where they are putting the dragon together, which I guess the dragon actually goes here, doesn't it? There's no token here. Maybe they're finishing it up, and then it crawls its way up out of the chimney. I believe this is supposed to be the actual chimney where it comes out of. For some reason, there's a pen of giant lizards here. I guess they use those as pack animals, but not outside in the tundra, because these are fucking lizards. The mimic attack them on a rest if the party takes a long rest enough for the spell to wear off. That's very true, yeah. If they forget about that mimic and then rest in that room, that would absolutely be a case. The noise of the forge and the beating dragon heart are your friend to avoid death by extra dwarves. That's a good point. Yeah, that is a very... And I actually alluded to the fact there's like a lot of machinery and mechanical and the tinging of blacksmith hammers and all that shit going on in here. So yeah, that would probably not aggro other rooms. So the lower right path, this is interesting. The lower left elevator, I say lower left, just the left elevator, is very much going to lead to combat. The right one could actually be social. And the other thing we have to look at is, do they ride the elevator up? Because these elevators start in the middle, and they're always, you don't get to choose the direction. They're actually always just moving from, third floor, second floor to first floor to second floor to third floor, so on and so on. It's just up to me, the DM, like where they are at any one point. The top floor is really disappointing and barren and has nothing going on. It's basically just a handful of Dwerger, and the whole point of this top floor is because it can open the I'm gonna say blast shield doors. That's not what I mean. What is going on here? It's the area where the dragon comes out of. The ice gate. Cause the wheel to turn, opening the western half of the door, sliding the lever back to its position, closes it. Okay, so there's just a lever that can open these two giant. I gotta sneeze. Caught it. Ooh, that was a big one too. Excuse me, goodness. And I guess if they come up the top of this and actually think to kill the Dwerger up here, or in some way jam the gears, then that could slow the dragon down. I mean, they still don't even know. Maybe they'll put two and two together because they know they can surmise that, okay, they're building a construct dragon. They've seen the path that it takes. We've done all that part, which is cool. That's all the information I think you want to give the players. I'm always a favor of, tell them more information than you think you should, because it just meant, don't obfuscate too much. You can still do some cool twist reveals. I think they're challenging in D&D, but ultimately you want to keep your players engaged in the story, and you want to give them more information, which I think we've done pretty well here. And if they're smart enough, they could come up here and sabotage stuff. Now, I would probably rule that that's not going to stop the dragon completely, but it might slow it down. And maybe I don't know, I translate that to somehow either doing damage to the dragon, or it, maybe gives the players a chance to rest, or, something where they get some benefit if they actually do fuck with things up here. Maybe I'll put some what I should do is give them potions of healing, honestly, because that's what they're hurting on. So I may put some potions or something for some of these to work, because otherwise it's just a kind of a slog of Dwerger. And there's a weird like two closets here where Dwerger hammers pop. I don't know if they're just like depowered, hanging out in here like a sleeping chamber. But as soon as combat occurs, then this Dwerger goes hostile. This one will go hostile, which I'm flavoring as these guys are just working on the gears or just inspecting or something. These two are working on basically Dwerger hammer suits. That's where they build them up here. And I threw some workshop crap in here because these rooms are all disappointingly empty. Hammers pop out and attack. And I guess the whole point of being up here is you could try to sabotage the blast doors. For my game, I don't think that would stop the dragon completely. I still want to do chapter 4, but it would confer some kind of benefit to the players if they think to do that before if they're just lucky enough to go up there and check it out before going down to the actual forge. Excuse me. May end up making a break for it if they get too hurt and have the dragon fly out as they're retreating. Yeah, for sure. that it's all going to be very interesting timing depending on how they do that. I am 95% going to unleash the dragon on them. It's just a question of when. And it's, you know, the best chance to do it is when it makes the most dramatic sense to do it, honestly. So it'll be just kind of up to the players on how they do that. So the right side I'm having to change a little bit because I'm getting rid of the whole demon aspect in my game. So if they ride the elevator down, there's a Dwerger Hammerer just chilling down there, which is going to be a fight unless they literally just take Edmund as Dearth. Then he can still do his thing. He would still be able to do his, you know, I've dressed up as somebody, and I think they would, I guess, believe him for the most part. And he would, I guess he could make his way around. It wouldn't be very fun for the other players to just kind of sit behind and not do much, but smart thing for them to do. There is so there's a hammerer sitting here. I think I already rolled his hit points. I rolled most of the hit points in the area, not all of them though. Let's see, where are we at? X30. Okay, and then X31. There's a whole priest who's secretly a barbed devil in here. I'm getting rid of all of that. All right, Richard, thank you for coming in here. Because I'm not doing the demon thing. That's just too much. I just want to make it where he's acting on his own. He's just a warlord Dwerger who's... I kind of want to tie it into Valish Gaunt and have it be like Gaunt was having the Dwerger extract all the Chardalin, and then when Gaunt got arrested, the Dwerger... well, I guess they didn't really make their move until the actual... what do we call it? Everlasting Rime happened when, so it would have been a little bit more after the fact, but maybe they were a little bit aware of Chardalin or aware of what was going on up here, and then when the Rime happened, the Perma-Winter, whatever we're calling it, Everlasting Winter, that's when Zardarok made his move with his clan and came up here. But yeah, they make a good point about, wait, has this place only been around for, 6 months or whatever it's been? Like, I don't, that's... In the problem is that's the one change I made in my game is that Permanite hasn't been going on as long as it has according to the book. I think the book is like 2 years, because to me that's like apocalyptic at that point to be without sun. There'd be like no fucking creatures alive in that area. But whatever. It was a question they asked. I just kind of shrugged and said, well, you don't know how fast Dwerger are at building things, or you don't know if this was an old, ancient facility that they just found and reestablished and shore up either. So. Although it does look Dwerger made. So I'm changing that and just making a storage room. You can see there's just a bunch of barrels and crates and shit in here. So just no reason to do the whole temple thing at all. Here, though, gets interesting. Which, unfortunately, we do lose the Barbed Devil, the Hat of Disguise, and a lot of that. I guess I could put the Hat of Disguise somewhere else. Although it's funny because Edmund's already got Disguise Self and is using it very well. God, this does give it to you at will. Wow. The things he could do with that. Well, maybe I could put the Hat of Disguise somewhere else. We'll think about putting it somewhere else, because that is kind of a reward you get in this dungeon. In X29, there's a fucking Mind Flayer here who's like chained up to this statue, which is pretty messed up. And also, there's a weird thing where if Zardarok retreats here, he can gain extra powers. I don't think I would include that. Well, it's a 7-foot tall female Dwerger in a scale mail robe statue, and it's the Deep Dwera, which is the same statue that he had in his closet. Chained to the statue's pedestal is an emaciated, malformed creature with rubbery, purplish gray flesh, a bulbous head, and a metal plate bolted to it, and sinister eyes. Let's see, what does it say? Where the creature chained to the statue's base is a Mind Flayer with 9 hit points and no armor. Kalondor, the Dwerger priest, has amputated its face tentacles, removed the part of its brain that enables the Mind Flayer to use its sign-like powers. It has no innate spellcasting abilities and no effective attacks. It retains its magic resistance and its telepathy, however. I mean, this could be very interesting if you have a social... I want to try to keep this creature as much as possible. Unfortunately, I'm going to need a token because... it doesn't give you one. I don't know why. They created it as a named NPC token instead of a freaking Mind Flayer token. So let me find. Let's make a Mind Flayer token real quick. I don't have a torture Mind Flayer token picture that I can use. Oh, that's funny. Mind Flayer brings up the Stranger Things also. Damn you, Stranger Things, for misusing the. I wasn't misusing, but calling flippantly calling creatures like Demogorgon. It was a neat creature, but it was not like a two-headed Knoll demon man. Yeah, we'll just use the regular Mind Flayer picture. That's fine. Can we? This picture. Yep, we can drag it there. Bigger. And download it. I don't know if I've ever actually used a Mind Flayer in any of our games. It's fun to get a chance to use some of this Underdark stuff. Alright, so now take that token, throw it onto the map. Ruining Mind Flayers and Demogorgons, yep. There's our Mind Flayer token right there. Very, very tiny. I don't know. Whoops. Why it looks like it's a I guess they tried to put the. Why is it a tentacle statue? It's supposed to be a Dwarger statue with a tentacle dude, but he doesn't have his tentacle. That's a weird art. I think that was a mistake. The artist thought it was like a Mind Flayer statue. It's supposed to be a deep. It's supposed to be a statue of Deep Dwarger with a Mind Flayer like chained up to it. Mind Flayer's name is Fjorl. It was captured by the Dwarger in the Underdark. This room is a temple dedicated to Deep Dwarger, a Dwarger god of conquest and psionics. Underdark comes to pray here and draws strength from statue's flame. So the problem is, I need to change the information that the Mind Flayer knows because none of this is pertinent to my campaign. So do we actually have a? Is there a Mind Flayer stat block here? Ugh, it's like a destroyed Mind Flayer version. Okay. That not a proper Mind Flayer stat block, which I get that it's not supposed to be a proper one. I have it in here. Mind Flay. Bobby Mind Flay. Nope, I have a Vampiric Mind Flay. I think I never did add the actual original monster manual. Fantastic. I'll do it later. But it's supposed to be a social. I think it's a cool moment because you see a creature that's normally very evil and one to be feared and one that you would maybe see like at the end of another, you know, dungeon in the Underdark or something, and all of a sudden you see this creature who is been like tortured and mutilated and restrained, and it really further paints the Dwargar in, you know, the Dwargar are not certainly not nice either, and it also paints them as being more powerful. The fact that they were able to do this to a Mind Flayer is I think pretty impressive. What kind of information? Yeah, I love the idea that it just looks at people and can speak to them telepathically, and it would definitely use like a very creepy, you know, psionic voice to do that. And what's interesting is it would obviously absolutely hate Zardarok and the Dwargar, so anybody that wants to kill him, it would be on board with giving them information. I don't know if it would. It says it retains its magic resistance and telepathy. I have to see what kind of abilities it normally has, but it probably isn't going to be capable of actually doing much for the players other than information, which information is very good. What is a Mind Flayer capable? Like, I don't think they could, like, could he cast like a buff on the player or something? Detect thoughts and levitate at will. Dominate monster and plane shift self only. So it was, and it said it specifically removed the part of its brain, enables the Mind Flayer to use its psionic powers. So it wouldn't have any of that. So no, it really wouldn't have any kind of effective attacks whatsoever. Or Mind Flayer. Which is deep speech, undercommon, and which has telepathy. I think it can talk to everybody regardless. Or the players would just kill it. I don't know. But what kind of information can I give this thing? What would it know? It would know. It would know about the secret door right here. There's a secret door that leads to the interrogation chamber. Well, I don't know. I'm thinking specifically this dungeon, not like overarching like campaign information, because I don't know how much it would actually know about all that. Maybe it would know about the crashed ship though. The Ascendant. That would be the one thing. That could be interesting. Yeah, and especially it could wreck if it manages to see Celeste or feel her psychic stone. That Psy Stone came out of a fucking Mind Flayer's skull. Oh, I wonder if she gave it to them. If gave it to this creature, it would like heal him and like give him his psionic powers back. I would allow that because that's fucking cool. If a player gives up a magic item to gain like a temporary powerful NPC ally, that'd be fucking badass. Players wouldn't trust this thing in a heartbeat, but that would be fucking cool as shit if it saw that and was like, that comes from the psionic essence of a Mind Flayer. Release it to me and restore my powers. That would be awesome. And then that would happen, and it would the Mind Flayer wouldn't go against its word. You know, they're certainly not nice, but they are lawful. So it would willing to ally itself with the party, knowing it's still in the middle of fucking Dwergerville. But in terms of if they just want to treat it as a social encounter, I mean, I don't make him too like weird and creepy because I do want the players to be able to work with him, but so not necessarily a golem type thing, but I think that'd be really neat. Yeah, so it would know the surrounding area, like a storage room in 31. I forget what these other rooms are, just weapons, I think, crates of weapons and shit. They store a bunch of their stuff. Let's see where I mentioned that. Yeah, L-shaped rooms, heaps of cold weather clothing, and a dozen pair of snowshoes. Northeast room contains piles of weapons. Blah, 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 blah. And then there's a secret door. DC 15 perception check on the east wall. Tunnel that leads to 34, which is where a pair of Dwerger Mind Masters are torturing the former captain of the guard, Nephrune. Is not, I believe, where Zardarok would be at the moment. Identify others involved in the coup against Zardarok. So what's interesting is they can just get more information about the fact that Zardarok is feeling like there's definitely a coup coming on, but he's just too stupid to realize it's Grandolpho's behind it. He's released Nephrune and intends to demonstrate her loyalty to Zardarok. If that means betraying her liberators, Nephrune does so without question. Nephrune's gear, including her armors and weapons, on the floor next to her. And what's funny is I can just have her be like, it's, you know, Grandolpho's behind it. And Zardarok could be like, there's no way, you know, and that could be fun. But I don't want to have Zardarok in there because that's a very anticlimactic way to fight him if they do fight him. Unless I have some kind of DM way of letting him escape. I'm too scared, even at only level 5 they are, of them locking down Zardarok in some way and taking him out right here, which I think would be just really anticlimactic. The only way I would have him here is if the players specifically listen at the door, and then I could have a dialogue scene where it's him leaving. They have that one exchange, and then they hear him leave. So then they've got an update about, okay, Zardarok was there a second ago, and we know the captain's there, and all that's going on. So I could maybe craft a dialogue scene with the stupid masters don't have token. All right, I know I've used them before, so I need to put them back on here. Creatures. Put them at the top. Put them down under D. Okay, I think I put them under dark halves, but pointed them to the Mind Master token. Is that right? Oh, okay. So I need to point them to the Mind Master token then, because I think Mind Masters are better than the Dark Halves. Dark Halves have Sleep and Disguise Self. Whereas the Mind Masters are the cool thing where they can temporarily control somebody and use their reaction to attack somebody else, which you'd think would be amazing to use against the Barbarian, but I'm pretty sure I tried it 2 or 3 times in the fight that Dearth could do it and failed both times. Yeah, the free legendary action, run away and get the fuck out. I know, that's such a that'd be a good topic for a DM roundtable. Actually, is how to keep your fucking villains from getting killed too soon. I'll just make the villain son the real villain. Okay, well, that's not the idea I had. Put this under Mind Master. Go. I think Mind Master has more hit points also. Delete those. This is Captain Nefrune. Which is ironic if they do free her. She would actually give her 30 hit points. Not be a good ally because she would turn on the player. I should try to find a female Dwarger portrait too for at least named ones. That might work out better. Legendary action of nope. Legendary action of because the DM says so. You average, which I believe is 39. Copy and paste. Copy and paste. There we go. And I think this button works. No, it did not. Alright, so we gotta custom roll these. It only works if I just slap a new token on there. Let's go GR 68 plus 12. Oh, that's a weak Mind Master. Look at all those ones. That Garden of Ones. That's a better one. Alright. Runs the gamut. 20 hit point difference between those two. Wow. Old priest and a young priest. Alright. That could be an interesting little fight. Is there a lighting in this room at all? Braziers of glowing hot coal. I love that it says that at every... Braziers of glowing hot coals in this room. Braziers of glowing hot coals in this room. I believe these do give off light, right? If I were to drop a player token in here... Yeah, it's bright ass light versus here it's dark. Here you got the one light from there. And that's lit. This is... Oh, that's interesting. You can see the forge from this area. Okay. Things. Some of these rooms are pitch dark and others are not. So I'm gonna put these braziers red hot coals. One there. One right there. What else goes in a torture room or interrogation chamber? No, it is called torture chamber on the map. Lined with closed iron sarcophagi. Show me sarcophagus. Sarcophagus. What do you got for me? Roll 20. Oh yeah, this could work. These are great sarcophagi. Sarcophagus Mendus. Shit, that sounded way better in my head. Lined with closed iron. Iron Maiden is what they are, right? Has been shackled to a chair. Oh, they're prodding her with hot iron rods. I thought they were doing some mine shit to her. They're just poking her with fucking hot sticks. That sucks. Actually, search Iron Maiden because I think that's what I'm looking for. Yeah, these will work. Oh, there we go. There we go. A rack. Classic medieval torture device. These be a little bigger. Well, now that's too big. Big. Give me the size of a square, please. Oh, unfortunately, with the small maps, the giant notes about where what the rooms are get in the way real quick. And again, I could be prepping all this, and the party never even makes here next session. But that's what it's like to prep D&D game, isn't it? Ooh, what if the secret door is you have to step out of an Iron Maiden? How fucking cool is that? That would be fucking cool. A little smaller. Turn it that way. Right on there. Yeah. Okay. Can I just search torture? Maybe torture will come up with something like a torture chair. That rack appears again. It might make them enlarge. There's a rack with blood on it, blood stains. Gibbets, I think they're pronounced. Hanging cages. How is that torture? That's a fucking table and chairs. Is it a really bad meal? How torturous. I feel like there should be a rack in here. You can't really do a torture room without a medieval torture room without a fucking rack. That is funny. You could have them enlarge. Oops. What is this little fucking closet thing here? It's a torture closet. Just picture a real estate agent. Your torture chamber. It's got a fine torture closet. Keep all your shit in there. An array of torture devices: whips, mallets, barbed scourges, spiked chains, branding irons, hooks, thumb screws, pliers, and shears. Man, for these serious torture enthusiasts. Isn't that like a story for that one sex book series? The gray sex book? We had like a BDSM thing going on. I wonder if there was a torture closet in that one. Probably wouldn't have called it a torture closet. Probably a leisure dome or something. All right, give me a chair. I want a really, really torturous looking chair though. That's map layer. Okay, search chair. Don't give me beds. At least know the difference there. Chair could be quite torturous. I actually need a chair here. 50 Shades of Grey. Something else entirely, but yes, that 50 Shades of Grey is what I was alluding to. Had to pay extra for that room, yeah. It does not come standard. Not at all. Alright, I'm not actually going to do the chair. We can presume that's what's going on here. Make a skull symbol. But, I mean, they're Mind Masters. I feel like they'd be doing, like, mind shit to her, right? Mind Masters do. Poking them with their mind poison daggers. Yeah, just generic torture shit. Maybe just, like, chained to the wall, you know? So that could be a cool scene to come in. And, again, more information, although, ironically, that character would be, you know, they could fight this fight and think that they free the captain, and then the irony would be that the captain is still very much loyal to Zardarok and would not actually help them, which may be somewhat dissatisfying. Guest quarters in X-35. Literally nothing here. 2 beds against South Level's room. One of them with a Yeti hide draped across it. Stone chest. Heated by stone braziers. Well, I guess that's the invitation to long rest. Oh, that's where she stays. Okay, so she would eventually retire to that room. I gotcha. I gotcha. Let's just copy and paste that shit from. Bed. I'm gonna put. I'll just put the beds there. That's fine enough. We don't need to decorate all these fucking rooms. Good enough, I think. Starts getting real complicated if they go down this area because the barracks is just full of fucking Dwerger. 15 Dwerger occupy this area. 6 relaxing in the main hall, and 9 more resting in the small rooms attached to it. Yeah, there was 15 here. 6 there, and there's 9 there. End of the Dwerger are loyal to Grand Alpha, which is the big key if you made an alliance with her, but not yet. Also, no door here, it's just open. Tables. Okay. Oh, braziers heaped with glowing hot coals provide light and heat. That. So it's a kind of a cavern-esque thing going on here. All the rooms attached to it. I'm not gonna bother furnishing all the rooms. Probably stone tables, but whatever. I don't know if I have stone table art ready to go. Deal with some circular table. Glad to have it. Here, the Forge area become a free-for-all when they arrive if there is no alliance. I don't. It's tricky. I mean, I'm really hoping the players can come up with a plan on their own, and I will mostly acquiesce to that plan. Because I think Grand Alpha might just be looking for an opening also, and if there's just a big war happening, she might just on her own, make the call and be like, all right, everybody, I'll clear all my sleeper cells that I've got. And the players maybe unwittingly stumble upon the fact that, okay, all the Dwerger are suddenly fighting each other now. Actually, don't have to deal with as many. That would help alleviate things for both players and myself. So I hate having the name tags on there. It just gets in the way, and the health bar is above them, which also gets in the way. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. One in each of these rooms. Bother keeping track of all these guys. I don't know. I wonder if this will work. Did not. Damn. Didn't it let me roll? We do it on this one. Maybe my macros is not working right now. That's a shame. And then we've got the forge in the middle. Well, we also have the chests here. Burger hammerers, featureless stone pillars support the vaulted ceiling of this unlit chamber, which doesn't have piles of blazing hot coals and braziers. Burger encased in exoskeletal construct stands for a Lord Iron portcullis. Anyone they don't recognize. You need the fingers and palm of Sardarok's gauntlet to place the indentation to rise from the ceiling. You also just cast a knock spell or use brute force. DC 25 athletics check. In order to make it into the treasure vault, which is where all their shit is. Wand of Web. Cloak of Elven Kind, but apparently it is destroyed if you take it about is exposed to sunlight. But technically wouldn't be in this campaign as a sunlight. Has a statue of a Demogorgon, it just fucks you up. It's really not that good of treasure. I mean, they honestly probably got better treasure from the trunk in Zardarok's personal chamber, so I would probably add some more stuff on here. But this is if they need all those numbers that they got from Zardarok's vault, which they did get. Built-in combination lock with 3 temp tables that bear tiny dwarvish runes. I would probably put some better stuff in there. A few more magic items. And then we've got the forge, which I don't think we're going to get to the forge tomorrow. I would be very, very shocked. I mean, technically they can. Technically they can, you know, defeat the mimic. If I run the animated armor fight, which I probably will, and if they go take the elevator down, fight this one Dwerger hammer, or convince him to fuck off, and either kill or just quickly talk to the Mind Flayer, and the Mind Flayer knows, like, hey, this area leads directly to the forge, and then they're in the forge right here. So it's a very tricky dungeon. You know, it's cool because the players have a lot of freedom about where they want to go, the order in which they can accomplish things. They don't know where things are, which is something that the Mind Flayer might be able to help them out in some way, because at least he was taken from the Underdark, so he could point them to the fact that, you know, the entrance to the Underdark is across the forge that way, and he'll point this direction. The forge is a huge area filled with Dwerger working like all the time. The throne room is on the other side of the forge, and he can even say that they're bringing up. He basically can allude to the fact that the Quaggas and Myconids are working together. So I would basically give the Mind Flayer a good chunk of information about what's going on here, just because he's the one thing he's been able to do is like listen in on shit going on, and people come in to like punch him or torture him or something. Zardarok takes great pleasure in lording over him and things, just keeping him as a just random ass prisoner. And yeah, I would allow it that if the party wanted to free him, he doesn't have any real combat abilities, unless they give up that psi crystal or they let him extract somebody's brain. I would let him maybe still do that. They go down to feed Spellix to him or something. Who knows? We could really open the playing field in some fun, or maybe they lure a Dwerger, and we could really play with that in some fun ways. Well, no, I don't think he was one of the ones who actually kidnapped. So that'd be pretty funny though. Kidnapped Celeste. I don't think he's from It Ascended. I think he's from the Underdark, but I don't know. And I don't know if he would be. He might, even if he's not aligned with the Mind Flayers from the It Ascendant, then he would be aware of them, I think. So maybe he could tease the fact that, you know, I felt and the timeline would line up to where the campaign started, which was when Celeste crashed into the snow and was found, or she climbed out and found the others. It was like a week ago. I felt, you know, a psionic disturbance, not super far from here, you know, that I could tell it, you know, flying overhead, or maybe not alluding to that much, but and then it suddenly has been quieted down, but I can still hear it like a beacon in my mind or something, and he could basically point to where a descendant is, because it would be convenient for them to run that area while they're in this general Sunblight area. But the one thing that gets tricky is if, you know, we do unleash the dragon and then they exit and then I tease a descendant, well then they're like, oh crap, do we go do the descendant quest or do we go deal with this dragon? It's gonna be up to the players. But I do plan on having them fight Zardarok here. I am not. I guess I'll have to be prepared for it just in case. But I would try to assume they're not going to try to make their way into the forge just yet. And maybe even me as the DM can speak through, you know, the Mind Flayer character and be like, "There's a fuck ton of Dwerger in there, and you know, you might need more." Ally, and he would be able to know about the rising like coup and things because he's heard, you know, players or not player the Dwerger like, you know, muttering about things, and the whole time he basically everybody thinks he can't understand anything because he's been mutilated, but he still has his telepathy, so he keeps that shit quiet. So he'd be able to give that player some information about. Maybe don't go in there yet without a game plan, you dumbasses. It's gonna be painful. There's a lot of Dwerger, and essentially, if you trigger these Dwerger, I believe it brings. I mean, Zardarok will be able to bring the fucking hammer down, literally and figuratively. You could probably bring in the Mind Masters from 34, and just all these Dwerger come pouring out. But then that's when the actual, you know, coup could take place if Grandalfa gets involved. You know, have her ride an elevator down, and it gets pretty fucking nuts. But I don't think we're going to get to that next session. I would be pretty surprised. You know, and a lot of these fights that I'm speaking of when I'm hand waving, oh, there's a fight here, there's a fight here. You know, those fights can take anywhere from 15 minutes to an hour, if not longer, depending on how it goes. So, you know, and especially if they make it like to the throne room, that's going to be a session long fight, no question. So if I had my druthers, I would have them, you know, deal with the throne room in one session, probably deal with a lot of the social stuff and prepping for the forge in one session, and then doing the forge in another session. I think Sunblight could be comfortably done in 4 sessions, and we've already done 1, if that makes sense. But we will see. I can only prep for as much as I can, and then it's out of my it's sort of out of my hands, and then it's gone from my prep work to, oh shit, now I gotta, like, you know, the magic happens with the ad-libbing and trying to come up with things to time for Spellix take one for the team. I know. I'm actually really excited for them to deal with the Mind Flayer now. You all have been to be very excited. The more I've talked about it, the more I've been really feeling like that'd be a fun thing. But guess what? I was excited last week about the unleashing that creature out of Thimbleweed, and now it doesn't even look like we're going to do that. And I could still do that. I could, you know, while they're taking an elevator ride, I could just have Thimbleweed double over and this creature pops out. And guess what? They're in an elevator. That's the perfect chance for that thing to just run around and escape and start, you know, presumably wreaking havoc or just escaping. Just depends on if I'm feeling like that's a fun thing to do, essentially. And then that becomes the chaos that everybody has to deal with instead of this ongoing coup. We will see, but I think for now that will bring an end to this week's Crafting Icewind Dale. If you enjoy the content, please check out patreon.com/RogueWatson. Shouts to Platinum patrons Joe, Will, Tiny Dancer, Christopher, Thomas, Adam, Stan, Nathan, Alex, Cam, William, I'm Loud, and Alex. Gold patrons RPG Papercrafts, Pretty Boy, and Yuma, Marcus, Dead Lizard, Lounge, Sam, Lumpy Spuds, Jerome, Sklenia, Blood Angel, Veronis, Baboon, Nathan, Fast Like a Tortoise, James, and Kyle. Thank you all very much for your support, and we'll see you all for D&D tomorrow night.